Here we go.
Yay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the GAFE Admin podcast, episode 3, coming to you live mostly from Iowa, but we do have one Illinois person in here for us today, and we'll introduce him later. He's sitting down there hiding out. He can get introduced later. Hopefully Q&A is working this time. My name is Lance Lennon. I'm the tech director for the Eagle Grove Community School District in Eagle Grove, Iowa, little town north central Iowa. Been a GAFE admin, or been GAFE district there for about 4.5 years, and one-to-one with Chromebooks. Carl?
Carl here, Technology Director at Ames Community Schools in Ames, Iowa. We've been GAFE at Ames for the 5 years that I've been there. It's my second district that I've moved to GAFE, and we have one-to-one at our high schools, but with MacBook Airs, and our middle school has Chromebooks. So about 1,000 of those, and then we'll move our elementary school all to Chromebooks this summer. So we're going to add another 2,500 or so Chromebooks. So that'll be a fun project for this summer.
He made it. Chad, you're up. Introductions.
Hey, I'm Chad Ferricks from Spirit Lake Community School District in Northwest Iowa. We currently are one-to-one grades 3rd through 12th with Chromebooks. Second grade has Android tablets. First grade has iPads. Yeah. And pre-K and kindergarten have a mixture of both.
Excellent. Mitch.
My name is Mitch Dowhauer. I'm actually from Milford, Iowa, a couple blocks away from Chad. But I work in Spencer, Iowa as a technology director there. I've been there just a year now, so about a week into, or a week over my 1-year anniversary. So not been too long, but they've been Google Apps before I was there. I've been doing Google Apps work for a long time. Not as long as Hank from Illinois here, but nearly as long, right after he did. So we are Chromebook district. We're not technically one-to-one, but we have enough devices to be. They're still sitting in carts in classrooms. Our kids have pulled back to us that they have devices at home and access at home, at least 98% in the last questionnaire that we sent out. So not in a big rush right now to actually go one-to-one, but we will be soon. When I say soon, it probably won't be next year, but the following year, just to make sure that those devices have a home. Those kids own those devices. If they damage them, they have ownership, things like that. So right now, just kind of working into it slower with our teachers to get past that mindset of, oh my gosh, the kids have these crazy devices and they're going to be distracted, yada yada yada. So we're going through that process just like everybody else. But we've got about 1,600 Chromebook devices in our district.
All right. Well, Phil can't be with us tonight. He's actually with his family at the Harlem Globetrotters.
Not locked in his garage.
Not locked in his garage this time, no. And hopefully he's having a good time. He said to send his regards to everybody. So shout out, say hey, Phil. All righty. So, well, the way we go things, I'm not introducing you on purpose yet because it's a surprise. Not that they can't see you down there, but it's a surprise, our guest. One of the things we do every month is we talk about our tip of the month. My tip this month that I want to talk about is two-step verification. A lot of people recently, especially in some districts around here, have discovered the joy of somebody getting your Google password and therefore having access to your account. Security is a nice thing. It's a fun thing. It probably should be implemented. And what I tell my staff is probably the best thing you can do is to turn on two-step verification. We have it on for the domain. We don't force it for anyone, but we do have it turned on. And there's different ways you can go about the two-step verification. Number one is you can have an app on your phone that will generate a code that when you log in, if it says use the app and give me the code. Another one is you can have it send an SMS text to your phone that will have the code on it, and then you enter that code. Third is you can print off a series of 10 codes, and they're one-time use, and once they're done, they're done. You can print those from the two-step verification page. And a new one last summer is they allow the USB key, it'd be a YubiKey or other devices, and you'll have like a little button that you push on it that'll activate, and it'll store your credential information, so you have to have that and your password. The nice thing about all of this is the two-step verification is like once every 30 days, so it's not like every time you go to a computer, but every time you go to a new computer, you do have to put in your stuff. So it can be a pain, but a little bit of pain, a lot of security.
Hey, Lance, you guys are testing out the USB key for that, right? How's that going?
Problem that we went into is I was still on older Macs for some of my staff, and it did not work on the version of OS they were on real well, so it was inconsistent at best. Anything 10.9 and above, we have found that it works perfectly fine. I like it. Whether we'll go with it, I don't know. I think it's $10 a USB key per person versus the fact that they already have their phones, most of them, and can use that. So, but about 80% of my staff is on two-step verification now. We still have a few that are fighting it. I don't know if they're fighting it or just haven't done it yet, but eventually they'll either do it or get hacked.
So you haven't enforced it? You left it as an option?
Nope, that's their option. And then, of course, I get to deal with the repercussions of them not doing it. But
Are any of you other guys using the two-step authentication, Chad or Mitch?
I use it on my account, my admin account, but that's it. My daily use account I don't yet.
Here. I use it on both my, well, I have multiple accounts. I use it on all but one of those accounts. Some of my staff do. It's usually I show it to them after something's happened, and I have to change their password for them. I say, hey, there's this two-step verification process. You know, you can just get a text on your phone with a code, and boom, you're in. Or I haven't gone nearly as far as Lance has gone with the USB key thing. Everybody has a cell phone, so it's just waiting for the code to come, like 10 seconds. I mean, that's just on machines you don't always use. You just remember this machine, and it's not a hassle at all. So, like, if it's their laptop or whatever, they just remember that machine, and they never have to do that again. So, I don't see it as a hassle. We're actually going to do, well, you guys know what happened today with my student that I've been working with. But we were in the midst of coming up with a project where we were going to actually run a email spoof campaign and try to gather users' credential, and then use that in a PD situation and show them here is how easy it is to get your credentials. Here's how stupid some of your freaking passwords are that are seriously the word no. And here's how we can use our tools that are readily available on Google to access your account. And then we were going to spin off from that. That hit a bit of a hiccup today with a poor choice by said student. So we'll reevaluate, but I still plan on going forward, probably just not on the same timeline anymore with that PD section, and just showing staff that it's important to have a secure password and access to your account. Otherwise, stupid stuff happens. So.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I always never let a good crisis get away, right? And so we had that issue about a year ago where a bunch of the CFOs were asked to send bank account information to spoofed accounts and whatnot. And so we looked into the two-step there. My biggest thing with the two-step was more to do with app-specific passwords. Did you guys run into that at all? Like, we have teachers that have set up the Gmail notifier in their menu bar for those that are still using Macs. You have to set up an app-specific password for a lot of those.
Yep.
And that became a deterrent for some of our staff because they didn't want to go through those steps to make all those set up.
There's no doubt about it. Security isn't easy, but if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Kind of like backing up, right?
Giddy up. Who backs up? It's all in the cloud.
That's easy now. You can back up everything to Google using a cheap little tool or just Google Sync access. That's what I'm doing.
Good news. It looks like Q&A is working. We had our first question pop up from Alex. She said, "Woot, ready to go." So.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, am I up next, I think?
Yes, you are.
All right, so I got my ducks in a row a little bit easier, or a little bit better this time around, and we're going to do another GAM tip. I've already posted it to the same site that I used, or Google Doc that I used last time. So if you go to bit.ly/GAM tips, that's a P, not a T, capitalize GAM and the T, and you're golden. It'll get you to last month's and this month's. But this month specifically, we're going to talk about keeping groups synced via OU. One of the great things is we all spend a lot of time organizing our OUs, or maybe that's just something weird that I do to make sure my OUs are all right and the people in the right place and they're neat and clean. If you go to all that work to keep your OU clean, why not take advantage of that to keep your group?
It's so hard right now not to make a joke. I'm killing myself over here.
Settle down. Settle down. So the command that I'm showing you tonight is what it'll do is it will query a specific OU, and then it will update a group based on the primary emails when you pull that query. While this is a useful command on its own, you don't really want to go in and run this every single day, every morning, every week, or whatever. So you can tie it to a cron. And so what I would do is I would build this out for all of my groups that I genuinely care about having updated. Mr. Hare's third period biology class, that's on Mr. Hare to keep synced. That's not my problem. So I build these out, and then you set a cron job where it'll just run through all these every night to make sure my OUs are synced with my groups, or my groups are synced with my OUs. There's some more work that you can do to pull out the users that aren't supposed to be there anymore. But this is a quick, easy, simple one. It's building off that query that we talked about last time, where you can query on the OU, and then it uses that information for further commands. So again, fairly simple. Nothing super crazy, but definitely a worthwhile command to know for GAM.
Hey, Carl.
Yes, Mitch.
You did it the hard way. I'm just saying. Just letting you know, buddy. You did it the hard way.
All right.
And I know Hank's over there thinking the same thing. So.
Enlighten me. How can we do it better?
There is a sync command. There's a sync command for the group settings in GAM where you just run sync and then an OU name. But hey, I like seeing it the hard way because it tells you what the query does. So
exactly. So think of this like the algebra class, right?
Exactly.
Why am I going to
educational exercise?
Hey, I think some of us in this chat have teaching licenses last time I checked, right? So that highlights the query and the ability to cron it out too. So yes, you could do it a little bit simpler, but now you understand how it works and know the pieces. But thank you for clarifying, Mitch. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Ooh.
Carl, would you like the link to the sync command? I have it up right now here. I think I posted
Put the link to the help file in it.
I'm trying to be helpful.
Here, let me Google that for you.
I actually had it on in a tab because I was trying to do. What the heck was I doing?
It's a good question, Chad. We ask ourselves that every day.
Apparently harassing a friend, I believe, is how this works.
Oh, no. I was with GAM today trying to figure out how to search email headers for the spoofer thing.
Yep, we were
can't do that.
So if anybody out there knows how to do that, Chad needs some help searching.
I think I can do it in GAT, but GAT is broken. I even gave it new permissions, and it still won't load my stuff. So that's.
It'd be really nice if anybody from Google's listening, to fix your search operators in Volt.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Because I could search for the domain where the email really came from with the message ID, but I can't use a wildcard on the first part of that ID, only the last part. Yeah. Which is backwards. Who cares? Because then you would have to search for
I'm absolutely certain that all those people, all those developers at Google are watching this podcast.
You know it.
They're going to be like, whoa, we need that. Hey, Alex wants to know what your shirt says. Chad, normal people what?
Scare me.
Wow, I didn't have to give Chad $1 this time.
Oh, man, this is going off the rails quickly. Mitch, what was your tip this week, this month?
All right, hang on. I'm going to try a screen share, and we'll see if I can crash my machine again.
His tip is about sync in GAM.
So there's a really easy way to do this.
You know what? Fuck you all.
Whoa!
My rating.
That escalated quickly.
I will edit that out in the podcast.
Hey,
right,
we're above 21 and older, or what's the...
No, we're not explicit anymore.
Oh, oops.
Oh no!
Carl ruined it. Wasn't even me.
We're gonna be flagged. FCC's taking us down. Uh-oh.
We'll bleep that out.
No, I'll
Carl's
get it
been
in post.
drinking or something.
All right, is my screen sharing?
Yes.
All right, good. All right,
Except
so
I was supposed to be next. I'm out of order now. I'm not going to be okay with that.
well, you were
I
late.
didn't know if you were going to be here with all the
Yeah,
tech
you were-
issues you
you
were
were
having.
late, so you get bumped. All right, so my tip is just some updates of some new stuff that's going on in the Google Admin console. First of all, one really cool thing that we can do now in the admin console is to search for settings at the top. So where you used to search for users to go in here and make changes, reset passwords, things like that, you can actually come in here and like do add user. And I can go here and actually click on add to user, and it'll take me right to the screen to add a user. Really easy. It's still easier in GAM, but...
Hey, Mitch, can you type in there, search message ID
Search
via
email
domain?
header.
Sorry, Chad.
It's not that smart.
It actually logged me out.
You've offended it.
So the
You've offended the Google.
The
You know, if you
developer's
had
like,
the extension of the
"There's-"
month, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Developers are ticked. All right, so you can search settings. It's really cool. I'm going to use it to find the setting of one of the new things that's out there. I'm going to search for contact settings, and I'm going to go to settings for contacts here. And Google's actually rolled out a new version of Google Contacts. By default, your admin console will not push this out to your users. That's probably a good thing. But this change is actually a pretty good one. So if I go into contacts here, I'll just switch tabs. This is the old contacts. It's been here since, I can't even remember how long ago. I mean,
A long time.
a long time. Probably since Hank's been doing Google Apps. And that's a long time. So Google's pushed out a new setting in the admin console under contacts and then advanced settings. So if you go into advanced settings here at the top, maybe, all right, there's a checkbox that's by default unchecked called contacts preview. This is still basically like in a beta mode. I don't know why. It's been out there for a little while in the free versions, or I mean in the public versions, so I don't know why they're still calling it a preview. But all the features, I guess, aren't loaded in there yet, like your custom fields and things like that. But if you come in here and you enable it, this is a one setting for all users. So you can't do it by OU, which is unfortunate, but you can turn this on for all users. Once you do, the next time they go into contacts, they're going to be prompted to ask them if they want to try the contacts preview. I've already done the contacts preview, so it's not prompting me right now, so I'm kind of switching back and forth. That's the nice part about this setting, is it's still going to allow your users to switch back and forth. You might have to show them how to do that in some kind of communication to them. But if I go here and I go down to try contacts preview, this new version is very pretty. So it just looks a lot cleaner.
Ooh, it
shows
matches the new theming.
exactly.
Yeah, that's the new UI.
Everyone, quick, take screenshots so you can spam all of Mitch's contacts.
Go ahead. These are all people I work with, so I really don't care. Well, there's a few like salespeople thrown in here, but
You deserve spamming.
yeah. So the cool part is to find duplicates. They made it even easier. Just go over here, click on Find Duplicates, and it'll actually merge them all together with Google Plus profiles, all that good stuff. You can go in here and modify your circles. Your directory link's still here for your domain. Like I said, I think the only thing that really is still missing is the custom fields, and a lot of people aren't using those anyways. That was more on the business side, like if you were syncing contacts with GADs or something.
You can't.
And if I want to go back from there, so let's say that someone comes on here and for some reason says,
Yep.
"Ooh, it's terrible. I want to go back." Where do I go?
Yep, so you go down to More. For those that hate change, you go down to More and go down to, where is that at?
Leave.
More contacts.
Leave the contacts preview right
Oh,
there.
there it is.
Hey,
Yep.
Mitch, click on export.
Yes.
Click on export for a second. That's one of the things that's not there, and it'll tell you got to click into old contacts. Export and print.
Interesting.
For whatever reason, if you want to print your contacts, you want to fill your Rolodex.
I like to carry mine in my billfold.
You want
just
the George Costanza wall.
yeah, exactly.
Waiting for it to explode.
Just for something else, a little extra. And if people ask me for somebody's contact, I just tear off a piece.
Because you can always reprint it, right?
Exactly. I
Sure,
carry
with
a
the
couple,
print,
I
with
always
the
carry a
printer
couple.
that's in your other pocket.
I carry a couple extra copies for that.
Right. Sure.
Well, that's see, good things. Good things here on the GAFE Admin podcast.
All right, couple other things quickly to.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
There is more, and Carl is telling me that my tip was extensively large this week. So, thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
So, other things that are new in the admin console, you all are being prompted about setup mobile management. Don't just click on Manage Now, because that's going to throw all of your mobile phones and turn the switch on for the mobile management. All your users will be prompted to put the device app, the what do they call that device?
App on there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they call it something.
Personal phones.
Yep, so it'll start prompting all your users to install it. It's not a bad thing, but if you don't warn them first, it's a bad thing. So the cool thing is you can then enforce like passwords and encryption or wipe the device. You know, those things have kind of always been there. They've just made it better.
Or wipe your tip.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
That mobile device management bit that's in there, Mitch, I think that could turn into a whole GAFE Admin podcast debate on its own. On
Absolutely.
whether
We had
not
one ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I do turn that on, Mitch, is there a way to turn it off? We had a question.
Yes. Yes, there is. It's a checkbox. So it's actually a checkbox. If I go into device management and setup here,
Android, yeah.
go to setup.
In
And
Android management, you're clicking pretty fast. While you click, I'll try to say, and then do that manage Android devices.
Yes, so it's
You know, every time you talk, Chad, it goes off of his screen.
all right. So I'll go back. So because I forgot there's a
I'm
little bit of a
talking now.
delay.
Then it goes off his screen.
All right. So under device management, which is an icon in your admin console, to the left go to setup. Once you go into setup, go to setup again, or you can search at the top, right? Now that we can search in the settings, but this is how you get to it the 100-click way. So go to setup again. And then once that loads, it's by OU, and it's manage Android devices or manage iOS devices. The cool thing is, the thing that, you know, us as GAFE admins, we had a big conversation about this the other day, this group, and we were looking at just enabling it on a test OU. So you can do that with the setting. So go in here, do it on your own phone, check it out. I can go here, click on, you know, put my user in a different OU, whatever, and then select those settings. It's per user setting. So if that user's
in handy, case in point where that comes in handy is we were troubleshooting Google Play for EDU on some Android tablets that weren't loading apps properly, and you had to turn on the management stuff to sideload those apps. So that's a good thing to know, that you can throw those. So we just made 2 generic users, threw them in an OU by themselves, turned on managed Android devices for those 2 generic users, logged into the devices with them, and then we could do what we needed to do. So definitely a good setting.
Yep, and the other thing too is if you have admins with multiple devices, like an Android tablet and a phone, you enable it for that admin, and then it covers all the devices that they're syncing to. So they're going in the right direction. I think once they start merging some of those you know, Google Apps for Work things into EDU version, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be fabulous. So looking forward to that. The last thing that actually there's 2 things. GAD's updated again at the end of this last month. So just a heads up, that's 2 updates in 2 months. Crazy. GADS has never been updated that much. So those of you that are running GADS out there, make sure you keep that updated. There's some important stuff going on there. So keep an eye on that.
Sorry, Mitch. Sorry, you're done.
The last thing is Hangouts actually got upgraded too. Now we can do 25 people in a Hangout. So that's super awesome. We were always limited to 15. So 25 is fantastic.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
Alex Wagner asked another question. Is there a way of making up for getting rid of Google Play for EDU? Alex, in my opinion, that's where they're headed with all this Google for Work stuff, moving over to that education side. I would assume we're going to be able to manage apps better from within the console soon.
It never really made sense to go in a separate spot anyways.
Yeah.
So
except when the separate
Except for the
spot was
teachers.
so pretty and handy to give teachers.
it was pretty.
Now you're going to have to come up with a custom admin role where teachers can hand out apps.
Yep.
What was your tip, Chad?
I have a single tip, not 18 like Mitch had. So
It was large. I'm sorry.
It was large. So I'm going to just screen share quick, and then I'm going to do some Windows magic. Oh, come on. I got to get rid of this one.
That's my favorite magic.
Blue screen of death?
It's customizable. He actually uses the Paisley screen of death.
I use the one that changes
Here
colors.
we go.
There he goes. All right.
Here's my show outline notes. Load, please. So I love spreadsheets. If anyone knows me, they know that I love spreadsheets. I get excited about spreadsheets. I really, really get excited. And as this loads, I'm getting excited just in anticipation for this very simple formula that can prove very useful. And I will post this somewhere. I don't have a cool place like Carl does yet, but I will post it to the GAFE Admin list. Sorry, listserv. I almost said listserv. Google Plus group. It's a very simple formula that I use often, and it just compares two lists, so two columns of data, and it pulls out what's in the first one and not in the second one. So if I could get my stupid screen to zoom. Oh, it's going. Is that big enough for everybody yet? All right, so what it does is it's looking at column A, or sorry, looking at column B and seeing what's not in column B that's in column A and listing it in column C. So the formula actually resides in C1, and you have to start in the middle and go backwards. So it's filtering A1 to A5, so that's the first list. Where it doesn't find a match for the list in column B. So it's using the match, and where match errors out, meaning it's not there, it's going to filter those results into C. So it's a very simple formula, and some practical usages are, we have, for instance, a J term. Right after Christmas break, our kids all sign up for problem-based learning courses. So we export a list of email addresses of all high school students, and they're expected to go to a Google form and sign up for classes. So we use this list, very simple list compare, to see who hasn't signed up. So we have a complete list of students, we have a list of students who have filled out the form so far, and then we have a third list of those who haven't. So it's a very easy and quick way to see if you know who is supposed to use a Google form and who has. You can see who hasn't with a very simple form. And what I do is then write a little bit of an email script on the back end in the tools that runs on a time-driven trigger that shoots those students email reminders once a day until they've signed up for their J-term course. So I turn that script on. It uses what would be column C in this example of email addresses for those who haven't signed up yet, and it shoots them an email daily saying, hey, you haven't signed up for J-term yet, here's a link to do so, get it done. So some very practical uses for a very simple formula, put in conjunction with forms and stuff, and a little bit of scripting, it becomes even more powerful. So that's my tip, just a simple list compare formula, and again, I'll post that to the Google Plus community for all to see.
All right.
That's awesome, Chad.
I would send emails to those kids that haven't signed up once an hour.
And you could do that. You could set the time to trigger.
I think 5 minutes is you can get down to.
Minutes.
Just let them know it's important. You need to sign up for a class.
It's still important.
It's still important. As of 5 minutes.
I could send it to the Midwest Google Summit Boxer group. Send an email to everybody, those who haven't sent me the money for winning the NCAA pool.
It's checks in the mail.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Alrighty. Hey, guess what time it is? Speaking of the Midwest Google Summit,
bottom third.
It is time to introduce our mystery guest, who is not a mystery. Actually, it's very much our pleasure tonight to introduce. We call him Hank because his real name is Henry. Dr. Henry Thiele. He's currently the Assistant Superintendent for Technology and Learning at Maine 207 Schools in Park Ridge, Illinois. In this role, he serves students and teachers by leading the selection and deployment of educational resources and communication tools, of course, with a focus on personalizing education. He's one of the co-founders of the Illinois Google EDU K-12 group. He's also weren't you one of the founders of the Google Education Group in the Chicagoland?
Yeah.
One of the first in the country, wasn't it?
Yep. The first.
Yeah. The first gig. Man, you're like all about the firsts.
Yeah.
Supported many schools in Illinois as they transitioned to Google Apps for Ed. He was one of the first Google certified educators and is also a Google certified administrator and teacher. His doctoral research was some of the earliest work investigating Web 2.0 and its impact on communication, learning, and efficacy. Hank will move next year from Maine over to Downers Grove, District 99, as a superintendent. So we wish him well in that one. We will miss him in the tech field, but no, don't boo him.
Why are you booing me?
Without further...
I'm opening up pathway.
Hank.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Hank.
Welcome, Hank.
It's always good to be among friends booing you.
Wait a minute. You said you're opening a pathway. I don't think there's a school district in the country that wants me or Chad as superintendent.
No, it's not a pathway for you to become supers. It's a pathway for tech people to talk to superintendents.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No, we don't want you to a superintendent.
There's a list of bad ideas, and that one is underneath it.
Hey.
It would make school board meetings a whole lot more entertaining.
That it would, for the one school board meeting you
Maybe mark it explicit. That's what everybody wants, an explicit school board meeting.
Yeah.
What you going to do?
So part of the reason we asked Hank to come on here is Hank was the first school in the country to implement Google Apps for Education. And first school, if not the first, one of the first, I don't know if you have the designation or not, I'll give it to you, but it may not be true, to go one-to-one with Chromebooks also.
Not the first for that, but...
Okay. I knew Council Bluffs was close on that one, too. So.
Yeah, they're ahead of us.
We'll let Iowa take the... Yeah,
Iowa gets that one, yeah.
Always a competition. But that's, so we really thought a good person to be on here would be the first GAFE admin. And
that's true. There wasn't much of a control panel back then, but yes, that would technically be the truth.
That was my favorite control panel ever.
Yeah, let's go back to those days. You got a CSV file for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's still that way. You still can't upload from a Google Sheet. You still have to use a CSV.
Wait, who uses Google, or who uses the UI for adding users anyway?
Yeah, that's what GAFE
onesies and twosies. I still do. Little district, remember?
So when I set up my first domain, I just emailed the CSV to Google, and they did it for me. So how lazy is that?
Yeah, we did too. Yeah,
that was the way.
Wasn't lazy. That was working smarter, not harder.
There you go. Let Google do it.
Because they didn't trust you, Chad.
They probably didn't trust me. Don't give this guy the controls.
He's going to screw it up.
So, knowing that to the first, so the question comes up: when did you first implement GAFE, and why? Why did you decide to go, bravely into that breach?
Sure. Let's get the history on record so somebody has it out there. So, in 2007, I went over to Maine 207 from a different school district. And that was right when they were announcing Google for Education. And it was really aimed, actually it was only for, at that time, universities. So it wasn't K-12, it was above K-12. And on the way over to Maine, I knew that it was something to keep an eye on. So I actually have an original memo posted somewhere that talked about, we should check out this tool. It might be something, and who knew. But then when I got to Maine, they had actually had an email system that they were actually using student email back around 2000, 2001. So it was already like 6 years old when I got there. And when I came through the door, people were like, we'd really like to use email with our kids, but this email system is terrible. And it was all like text-based. There was no, no hyperlinks, you couldn't even bold in italics or anything. It was just like a typewriter. So we started looking for email systems and started speccing them out. And at that time, they were really, really pricey. So, like the cheapest option we could come up with that was realistic to use with our kids was going to cost us like $30,000 a year. And at the same time, we're keeping an eye on this Google thing, and at the time it was Gmail, Contacts, which you just saw. It looked about the same. Docs and Calendar at the time when we were first looking at it, and a few other tools that don't exist anymore. So it was pay 30 grand or try this Google thing that we didn't know if it was going to work or not, but it would be free. And we thought, well, let's give it a shot. So we started digging around on Google's website, like how do we, as a high school, how do we sign up for Google Apps? And there was nothing for K-12 schools. So we called Google. And we just like called the front desk, and we're like, we're a high school, and we'd really like to use Google Apps for education. How do we do that? And we got transferred and transferred and transferred, and it took about a day of getting passed around from person to person at Google, and eventually we ended up at Lauren Miskelly's desk, who still works for Google, and she, a couple of years ago at ISTE, told us the other half of the story. So I call her, we get her on a conference call, myself and my network manager at the time, David Spangler, and we're like, hey, we're a high school, we want to use these tools, and can we do that? And she said, hold on, let me put you on hold. So she put us on hold and gathered the Google for Education team together, which was 4 people, and said, hey, can we do this with a high school? And they quickly conferred and said, well, I guess if they sign the agreement, why not? So they sent us the agreement, which was the education agreement, which is a lot of the one you look at today is the exact same as that first agreement that we signed. So they sent it over. I reviewed it. It had all the stuff in it that we would want to see around privacy and security, even back then, about us owning the accounts, the data, all the stuff we'll get into later with FUD. And we said, okay, let's do it. And that's how Google Apps K-12 was born. It was 2 guys in one room and 4 people in another room, and said, hey, let's do this in the K-12 space. And 60 million users later, Google Apps for Education's going strong. So it's crazy. That's how, it actually happened on a phone call, and it was us cold calling Google. So kind of funny.
I'll never forget, Hank. Right after that, you guys did that big webinar with Google.
Yeah.
And I was listening in on that, and that's how I basically, after working in Iowa a little bit with it, how I got into it is from that webinar, and then reaching out to you because I was like, hey, can I take some of your stuff and start to update it, and move forward. But I remember that, and you guys doing that hangout I don't even know if it was a hangout then. It was a webinar.
It was a webinar.
It was a webinar recorded with Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we started piloting shortly after that in the fall of 2007. We were live fall of 2008, and within the month of going live, we were doing webinars for them. And one of the things I'm very proud of is that early community was very open with their materials. Like, I've always given away everything. I don't care. And the fact that it was, all of our informational stuff was built in Docs. It was built in the Google environment where it was just easy to share with the world. This Google Apps
on Wave.
Yeah, this Google Apps community. I think part of the reason it's grown is because it's built around sharing, and it's built around being open. You didn't have to hire a consultant to come in. You could just call. You could call Mitch. You could call Hank. You could, go find their documents and pass the links around, and you could get yourself started. And you didn't need to hire some super expensive expert to come in the door and get you going. You just had to get through all the red tape, really, and then you were going. So that's how it started. We also got some of the first CR48s, which I heard last week are now starting to be collector's items, so I got to tell the school district to hold on to those guys. But we got the first bunch of black box CR48s and put them in a lab to prove that they worked. We were a little slower to the game, about a year behind Council Bluffs and Leiden and that crew to go one-to-one. But yeah, so that's kind of how it got going.
We got a question pop up from a viewer.
Read the last part of that.
Last one. Yep, that's what I'm going to ask.
Read it
Alex
carefully.
wants to know: Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
I would have totally messed that up and said a naughty word.
That's why I got to read that one.
I'm going with the 100 duck-sized horses. I mean, a horse-sized duck, that's a ducking problem.
Yeah.
Still safe.
Thanks, Alex.
But she has a couple other questions in there
questions
that really did fit into where we're asking, basically, right on our show notes. We talk about that every month. We do actually do show notes. We do prep a little bit. But being one-to-one, and you've got other people on here that are one-to-one, and Mitch is almost one-to-one, what process do you go through when a refresh cycle comes about? I mean, talk about like choosing a device, any software maintenance that you may have, hardware purchases you may do to support the one-to-one, additional software purchases to support the one-to-one. What is your process like for that?
And I guess the reason I put this one in there, Hank, and the reason I put that in there was some discussions about equipment purchasing processes and other things on a couple different communication mediums I'm a part of.
Yeah, I was part of one of them, I think, at some point.
Yes, you were. So I thought it would be a good thing to bring up here, just to get everyone's idea. But I mean, we'll start with Hank for sure, because he's the featured guest, and and you've been through it more than any of us. So.
Well, we're a little unique in the fact, for school districts across the U.S., that we're one of those school districts that's 912. So we're really on the way we do it, we're on a refresh cycle every year. Every incoming freshman class gets a new device, and we're not married to the same device every year. So we evaluate every product that's on the market each year and make a determination of what's the best one for us to go with when we're talking about one-to-one devices. So that's part of your question, Chad. And it's like anything else. It's, can we service it? Do we believe we can get parts for the duration of the device? Carl and I could talk a long time about that one. Will our kids be able to get in? We have a Chrome Depot, what we call Chrome Depot. You guys are familiar with that. But we want to make sure that we get devices in that our students can open up, can repair simply, that we can get them the parts, the training, all of those things. So that plays into the devices we pick for our one-to-one devices. And then, of course, price, that factors into it as well.
Hank, when you say we, who is that we? Yeah. Is it Chad or Hank and Chad and Carl sat down and picked what's best for your district, or?
Yeah. There's the core team it's really the tech management team that starts by narrowing down the selection of devices, and then from there, actually the group that provides us our best feedback now is our Chrome Depot students. We used to get a lot of teachers involved in the process, but the teachers aren't the primary user, the kids are. We wouldn't go ask kids what devices to pick out for our staff. So we spend a lot of time getting them in the hands of kids, talking to kids about them, finding out which ones they prefer. We'll talk to a few of our instructional coaches about it. We have a group that we call the Tech Pizzazz Crew, which is one instructional coach from each of the 3 buildings that's a little more techie, or at least has more techie interests, that will provide impact on those as well, and or input on those as well. And we take all that information and make the call. And then it goes to the board for approval with our larger tech budget.
What about ancillary, like stuff that we've talked about, support it? Do you do any third-party tools that you put in place? Do you, maybe there's specific printers that now you have, or do you not print, hopefully? I'm not biased on that one.
Yeah, we do have just print centers where kids can go print from, and can either send to a staff member there and they can print it, or can go to a Windows machine and print it. And we keep it locked down intentionally that way, as you can imagine, to limit the amount of printing. But we do believe greatly in supporting core pieces of software by purchasing them around software that supports best practices instruction that we're trying to do. So like we purchased Pear Deck because we believe strongly in formative assessment. Same thing with a product called Classroom IQ that's new to the market. We pay for WeVideo because we believe in students being able to create high-level audiovisual content, and that's a great tool for that. We pay for depends on how you call this, Newsela or Newsela, which is a great tool for differentiating content and getting to understand if students can understand the content separate from their reading ability. So since we're really supporting differentiated instruction, that's a tool that supports differentiated instruction through technology. So we have a variety of these in place. And there's a lot of, like when you talk about Pear Deck, there's 15 to 20 other tools out there that support formative assessment. We don't discourage our teachers from using any of those, but we pick one that we feel is a good, solid, easy-to-use product, and we pay for that. Our teachers can count on it being there, and we believe that we're helping to ensure that a product that meets those needs stays around because we're paying for it. So those are kind of the Chromebooky kind of tools and our approach with those.
Excellent, excellent. Who's got the next question?
I'll do it. Hank, I want to circle all the way back to kind of the history of you guys getting into GAFE at Maine. What were some of the big issues that you faced, other than it never been done before? What were some of the big issues that you faced to get it started? Maybe some hurdles that you had to clear.
That was actually, Carl, the biggest one. Is we really were the first ones out there. We called Northwestern University was doing it, but a university system is very different than a K-12 school system. So they could provide some insight, like it worked, but they couldn't really provide any insight as to how to build it or manage it or do any of those things. So it was a lot of trial and error. Like I'll give you an exact example. When Google Apps for Education first came out, they only allowed domains to have up to 3,000 users in them. So our largest, actually it was 2,000 users in it, and our largest school at that time had 2,700 students in it. So we had to petition Google to allow us to have 3,000 in it. And then we ended up with 4 different domains. One for our teachers, then actually it was 5. One for the teachers, one for the board, and one for each of our student bodies, which we know now is totally worst practice.
But back then, Hank, I mean, all the settings weren't granular.
No.
So I mean, they recommended that then.
Yeah. Now it's it's insane to try to manage domains like that. But
Yeah.
and a few years ago, we took the time and rolled them all back together, and we had to deal with all of that. But that's the way it was, you know. But it was really tough for the first about the first 8 to 12 months, where there was no support group to turn to. You know, it was a problem would come up, and you'd figure it out, or you get on the phone with Google and be like, okay, this happened. What do we do? And they'd be like, I don't know. We didn't expect people to do that, you know. And you'd be like, well, people are doing this, you know. And you'd go back and forth, and you'd figure it out. And they were always supportive.
Hey, Hank, could you still call them and tell them, hey, I want to be able to search email headers and vault?
Yeah. I don't have the same tool I did
still
back.
Got that direct line?
I do, but I wouldn't use it for that.
He's got the chrome-colored phone.
Yeah.
The Chrome phone.
So now that Google's kind of got that ironed out as far as the management, it's constantly getting better. I remember back when they were first setting them up when I was in South Hamilton, it was one for the students and one for the teachers because you want. I mean, I get it. Now it's getting better. So what are some of the issues that you run into now that it's kind of ingrained and things are getting better all the time? What are some things that you have to face and deal with now?
I think the biggest challenge is that people think that Google should be able to do everything. You know, people want Google to build a grade book, and they want, and they think it's limitless in its abilities and in its breadth and scope. And getting people to understand that they really have a core set of tools that they're interested in supporting, and that there's third-party tools that tap into those to give you those additional resources that you're looking for. Google helped education in a great deal by releasing Classroom. That was a niche tool for education, and they're not really haven't traditionally been into building niche tools for any branch, let alone education. But in some ways, that has made people's expectations that Google's going to build whatever education needs. So, it's that balance of they're building larger tools for across all industries that need to work there, and education's just one of those markets.
And I think something to kind of add to that too, Hank, is when Google went out and did Classroom, I think it helped the third-party tools in the way that it made Google more aware that, hey, we need to be more in tune with these third parties and not step on toes. Because
Yeah.
I think when Classroom came out, it did that, right? It kind of stepped on some of their good, solid third-party partners, and now they've developed a whole network system to, through Connect and all these different things, to better communicate with those guys. So I think we're going to see more and more development through those channels, and see some really cool stuff start to spin off here. I mean, we already have, but I think we'll see even more now.
Yeah, somebody was saying to me the other day that if you're a tech company, you don't integrate with Google now, it just shows that you're lazy. And that's funny how that expectation has changed. 5 years ago, if you were a gradebook company that tapped into Google's APIs, you were innovative. Now it's just an expectation that you do it.
Well, and I'll tell you for free, I think that I've talked about it, I say it when I present, I talk to anybody that'll listen to me about it, is more and more Google's becoming a directory structure that people have to deal with. If you think everything's going to be AD or OD or what other D you want it to be, you're wrong. There's a directory structure out there that people are going to want to get away from others. And yeah, you're going to have to play. And that's just like you said, if you aren't doing it, you're just lazy.
So
with SSO.
Yeah.
Right.
Back in 2008, I went to the first ever Google Summit in Mountain View when I realized that I was 32 and I was too old to work for Google. But it was the 4 universities using Google Apps for Education and us, the lone K-12 customer. And at that point, the Google education team had this grand goal that every school in the U.S. or perhaps the world would be using their tools. So this, 2008, they lay that out. We want every school to be using this. And they said, if that's going to happen, what has to happen with Google Apps for Education for that to happen? And I gave them 3 things. Said the first thing you have to do is put folders in Gmail, because none of my users are going to use labels. They just don't get it, and they're never going to get it. And I heard, well, we're not interested in doing that. Well, we have folders in Gmail. The next thing I told them was that you need to make email archiving accessible and free for every school. Because for people who manage email systems in schools, that's a huge limiting factor. When you talk about you want to make Gmail huge and you want to give gigabytes of email even at that time available to people, if we can't archive that, if we can't meet our legal mandates around that for a reasonable price, like free, we can't scale with Google the way you want to scale. That's happened since then. And the third thing I told them was that you need to make a directory structure and a sign-in structure so that we're not tied to disparate systems, that we could just use the Google directory and from there manage all of our users. And I don't think that one's that far away. You could technically do it now if you wanted to with OAuth and everything else that's in place. So, back in 2008, those were the three things that I said that they needed to have to dominate the world. And all three of them were met with great resistance at that meeting. So I kind of feel a little like I was able to predict the future a little bit with that one.
Well, you were. All right, so we're coming up on our time here, and I don't want to cut anybody off, but we do still got a big giveaway here, and we're going to skip our tips again, guys. That's I don't
No big deal.
I brought a tip.
No, that's you got. Maybe you can say yours. Well,
No.
but no, we do want you to talk one last thing. One of your biggest presentations, and one of the things that you've put out there that have helped a lot of districts to get through this, is about the FUD, and I'm going to give you a whole minute and a half to explain and then talk about FUD.
tinyurl.com/GAFE FUD. That will get you to everything you need to know. What I quickly found at the beginning of this, and this was something else that I told Jamie Cassip early on in the whole development thing before he was an evangelist, that the fact that Google gave it away for free and that Google was a marketing company first made it so that educators were going to distrust Google Apps for Education. The most challenging part in the ramp up for Google Apps for Education was building trust. And the fact those two factors in there made easy targets for their competitors in the market. Any number of them, whether they be hardware or software companies or education, whatever. And a lot of what they would use to attack Google Apps for Education early on was a lot of FUD. It was sometimes just straight out lies that would be shared out, would be posted on websites, would be in commercials on television. And schools would have to fight those things, and you'd have to work through all the levels of bureaucracy in your organization, and one rogue administrator or one concerned parent that didn't have all of the facts could bring the whole thing toppling down and stop you from being able to move forward. So being the first one in this space, I'd get a lot over and over the same question. Is Google going to sell my data? Are they going to are they going to force ads? Are they going to charge me for my product? All of these things that we've addressed over the years through the FUD presentations would come up time and time and time again. And I don't know, maybe around 2009, 2010, tech director nearby sent me this email that was like 3 pages long. It was a network administrator that was a Microsoft network administrator that didn't want to go to Google, and really as you read through it, the fear really from this person, I believe, was that their job would go away and that the district would no longer have a need for them. So they laid out the perfect email step by step of FUD point by FUD point by FUD point. And that became a blog post that eventually became a presentation that eventually led to the Google EDU Trust pages. I've consulted Google on those pages since the start, just on what questions schools have and the information that they need to have, and the assurances worded in very specific ways that sometimes Google's law advice, their law team, legal team doesn't want to say things necessarily that are crystal clear and definitive, because that's hard to defend sometimes in a court of law, and we've pushed hard at times to say you need to be very clear here. You cannot be nebulous. You need to be absolute that this is how things will be for education customers. And I think that's helped really grow the product. The fact that they have been responsive to helping crush the FUD has caused a lot of confidence in their tools. And although they've made some missteps here and there in their wording and maybe how they've communicated about their tools, I think the letter of intent in the first acceptable or in the first user agreement that I signed with them still holds true today in those things I talked about earlier. They still believe in security. They believe in confidentiality of their education customers. They believe in putting a tool out there that's good for kids and that's good for schools. And I'll stand by that.
Excellent.
You're here.
Well, thank you for joining us, Hank. We really appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Yeah,
our
thanks, Hank.
pleasure. Absolutely
Thanks,
our pleasure.
Thanks, Hank.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, you are eligible for this, Hank.
Oh, I'm
We-
present.
we-
I'm present to win.
Yep. You don't have to be present to win because people on online can. This will be open for about a week. So we do have a giveaway tonight, and a giveaway is a Google Pixel, which is for those of you that there's a couple people I think have them in this group.
I don't have one yet.
I have the
Yes.
old one.
This is
Hold
the
on,
new Pixel.
You've been doing Google for this long and you don't yet have a Pixel?
Nope.
What is wrong with the people over there?
But this giveaway is sponsored by BetterCloud. So BetterCloud provides critical insights, automated management, and intelligent data security for EDUs operating on Google Apps. With the introduction of their workflows engine, tedious tasks such as mass provisioning, deprovisioning of student accounts can be completed hands-free. You simply set the rules and let BetterCloud do the work. Upon installation of this, listeners of this podcast can get an extended free trial from BetterCloud. In addition to the extended free trial, podcast listeners will also be given access to their workflow engine at no additional cost when they purchase an annual plan. So to take advantage of this deal, what you have to do is two things. One, send an email to Dylan@bettercloud.com. That's D-Y-L-A-N @bettercloud.com with the subject line GAFE Podcast Listener. And then just put your information in. And then secondly, you fill out a form. And that's bit.ly, so bit.ly/GAFE Admin 3. That's capital G, capital A, capital F, capital E, capital A, DMIN 3, because this is the third podcast. And that'll take you to a Google form. They are going to collect your email address, which means if you fill this out, you are going to get email from them. And you're probably going to get a sales pitch. But might be a small price to pay to get a free Pixel. So that is what they're doing. I've used BetterCloud in the past, and I'll tell you what, it is a gorgeous UI. It is absolutely gorgeous, and what they do is great. And smaller shops that don't have what Hank and Carl have, which is people under you, to give you time to figure everything out and run GAM like it's crazy. It's a wonderful tool, and it's not the cheapest tool, but maybe it's worth it for you. So they have offering a Pixel for this. I want to say thank you to Hank again for joining us. Alex says, Hank, you were amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Alex
Alex.
Wagner, one of our fans and listeners, and she's from Go Guardian. She gave away our first podcast giveaway, so we thank her for that. So basically, I guess that's about it for tonight. Anybody got any words of wisdom? Well, guess we'll use our apps or extensions next time again.
Am I ever going to get to talk about awesome tables?
No.
Probably not.
Put that in your tip of the month.
Tip of the month, man.
I'm going to switch them.
Chad, you and I need to do
we talk about our tips for a long time. I'm sorry, Hank, I jumped on you there.
That's all right. Chad, you and I need to do a standalone podcast.
I think so.
Ooh,
Just
I
on
would
awesome
watch
tables.
that. I would.
Awesome.
Everything's awesome
tables.
podcast.
Everything is awesome.
We'll just bring you back.
Cool when you're part of the
We'll just
team.
bring you back as a guest again, and then you guys can do awesome tables.
And the topic
And then
will
just
be
do
awesome
awesome
tables.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like
I'm
it.
down with that.
I like
All
it.
right.
Chad, I
gonna-
want to know about your pillow fort. It looks like a fort that you built with a sheet and some pillows at your house.
That's where he's allowed to stay in his house.
The original plan was to do some funky green screen background things. I didn't quite get there because of my technical issue earlier. So,
Flexi
I had to
Skid
restart.
logo.
and FlexiSkid logo was going to go back there.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, awesome. All right.
Alrighty. Well, good night, America.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks,
Watch
guys.
Watch for the podcast spreadsheet helpers and information tables. bit.ly.sh, whatever.
Have a good one, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you guys.